and people across the country will be showing their anger over universal credit today. The Department of Work and Pensions controversial benefit, which combines 6 means-tested benefits. Unite, the union, is holding a Stop Universal Credit Day of protest today to raise awareness of what they say is a serious problem, causing serious hardship to those claiming it. Well, Wendy had to move from Suffolk to another part of the country after the benefit plunged her into debt, and she couldn't cover her bills and food. This is what she told us earlier.
You have to make an appointment to go to the job centre, but then they actually ask you to go online to fill in their forms. Once you fill the forms in online, they actually then text you for another appointment for you to repeat the process again in the job centre itself. So that's quite a long process with 4 to 5 to 8 week wait of finding out if you are entitled to any universal credit. Very, very demoralising.
And did you have to wait long then to get the money through?
Yes, about 7 weeks I had to wait at the time.
Has it put you in debt?
Yes, very much so. I'm not sure if I will be able to recover this debt at all, in terms of paying it all back. Yeah, it's been very, very hard.
How has it affected you personally?
As a person, being very outgoing, etc., and very vibrant, that same person, however, there are patches where, your self-confidence goes, your self-esteem, you suffer from acute anxiety because all you can think about is how to reduce your debt and how to find a job to help you reduce your debt. So it's a big vicious circle. It's very difficult.
Well, Sarah Sanford is a member of Unite who supports the union's community activists in Suffolk. Sarah, good morning to you.
Good morning, Mark.
Thank you for joining us on the programme today. You're calling for a national day of protest today, Stop Universal Credit. Is it really that bad? It was brought in to try and standardise things, and a big rollout like this, of course, there's bound to be problems.
Indeed, but there are far more problems than the few. I don't doubt that there are people who've had a relatively pain-free experience, but we're calling for this because we're getting feedback from our own members, not just the ones who are currently unwaged, but those who are in work as well, that it's not working for them for so many reasons that I'm sure your programme doesn't have time for me to go into them in detail.
Well, we've heard about the length of time that it takes to get the money through, and that can plunge some people into debt. The process itself is quite convoluted unless you're fairly adept at being online or have a mobile phone, for instance. So the system has come in for some criticism. But once we work through that, I mean, it's going to be better, isn't it?
I wish I was that sanguine about it. I'm a veteran welfare rights advisor, and at the end of the day, even if all the amendments that my union and other political organisations have been trying to advocate for, it would still be a means-tested system, and it would still be putting, as I see it, far too many eggs in one basket. The idea that we need to particularly simplify the system in order to get people through it means that if one aspect of your life goes wrong or goes off course, the whole of your income is in jeopardy and the whole of your household management skills are pushed to the limit. The old system had many faults, but it did not put all of a claimant's eggs in that one basket.
Realistically, though, Sarah, we're too far down the line for anything to change now, aren't we?
This is a human design system. We can always make decisions to change things. I know the government have invested an enormous amount of money. In fact, the new system has cost more than the old. So the idea that it was going to be more efficient and save money and so on has been a big failure. And I know even the government's own select committee, the DWP committee, have expressed astonishment and shock and horror that so many people are not just in poverty but in entrenched poverty, which means that this new system is not helping people move through the wonders of getting a job into a more, better lifestyle. I think we have to have a far more fundamental look at it. And my union is campaigning for a unashamedly socialist alternative in which we have a more egalitarian system and we have a fair and system that treats people with dignity.
Sarah?
And the present system just isn't doing that for far too many people.
Thank you very much for coming on this morning. A member of Unite who supports the union's community activists in Suffolk. Listening to that, the Conservative MP for Waveney, Peter Aldous. Good morning, Peter.
Yes, good morning, Mark.
Suggesting that we should scrap universal credit, even though we're this far along now. It's impacting on an awful lot of people.
It is impacting on an awful lot of people. It's been a pretty rocky ride in the introduction of it, and an awful lot of it could have been done better. We could have been prepared for it better. I think where we are now, changes have been made. There are still more changes that are needed, and we have got to get those changes in place as quickly as possible so as to get the system working how it was originally intended to.
So you're not happy. This is an example from Rita, who's been in touch. Universal credit is awful. Gave up work for health reasons, went on to universal credit, went 8 weeks without a payment as they said my last paycheck would be enough. Fell into debt, has had an eviction notice. She's having to go back to work, has had to have a food parcel and rely on her daughter. Regularly runs out of gas and electric as it's on a meter. Is that really how we want to treat people in this country?
No, it's not. I think if you look at the original concept, which I think was flawed, was to try to replicate the workplace. You would be paid monthly in arrears. And for some people on very, very tight budgets, that's just not realistic and practical. And I think there have been changes to reduce the time you wait, but I think that one of the fundamental flaws that still remains is the 5-week wait for your first payment. The government will say that there are advance loans there to get you over that period, but those loans then have to be repaid. And for people who are on very, very tight budgets, they're just not going to ever be able to repay them. So I think what has got to be done, one of the main things that still needs to be done, is that 5-week wait has got to be abolished.
OK, well, we're still waiting for the Department of Work and Pensions to come back to us. We tried to get them on to respond to the criticisms. The number was constantly engaged. When we did get through, a message was left for someone to call back. To date, we haven't heard anything. Perhaps you will have more luck than we do. Peter Aldous, thank you very much, the Conservative MP for Waveney.